In this video, I will show you how to use procedural textures to create some nice materials in Blender without any pixels, any image textures like that. So what is important to understand is the benefits of using procedural materials like this is that you don't have to unwrap the geometry like I did show you here into the UV editing. You don't have to do that, and sometimes unwrapping can be a little complicated if you don't know that stuff. Anyway, we will cover it into the next chapter, and you will see that it's not that complicated, but some people, they don't like to unwrap and they prefer to use procedural shaders like this. Like this, you don't have to unwrap anything. So what we will use here is a first texture. Maybe we can make a paint that is a little damaged with rust, first of all. Okay, so for that we will create basically two shaders. There will be the paint here, there will be the paint, and here there will be the rust, and we will mix them together. So we will try to make something a little more realistic than what we made before. And first of all, I will focus on the paint here. So I will go there. And for the paint, let's say I will take a kind of red material or maybe a yellow shader like this. Can be good. I will decrease the roughness a little of it. I don't want something too shiny because, but I want something that is already a little bit realistic without anything. So I can add a little of coat into that, but it has to be not that much shiny, so I will increase the roughness like that, okay? And not too much. Yeah, something like this might be good. Maybe a little more roughness into both. And anyway, the roughness here, I will manage it with a first texture that we will add. So this will be here a texture, and we will change with the noise texture here. Okay, so we have a noise texture, and this will influence the roughness there. So if I plug the factor here to the roughness, I will have here something that doesn't appear that much, but it did change things already. It's because of the yellow here. But if we go into something really dark, we can see that we have the roughness that did change a little if I decrease that as well. So what we will do to manage this, you can see a little the details of it. So what I can do to manage the details of it, I will just change already a few things into that noise texture. First of all, I can increase the details, and if you watch here the details of it, and I increase that to 15, you can see that I have more depth into the texture itself, okay, more details into it. I can increase or decrease the scale like this, okay. If I increase the scale, you can see that I will have something more like that. Be careful after it's a little too much repetitive and it shows a little itself more. So maybe somewhere around 13 might be good. And you can use some color ramps. The color ramps are very important when you make some procedural stuff. So let's plug this into here and go into there, and now we'll have another it's the same by default. We create exactly the same, but you can just contrast or uncontrast what you need. So let's go into the principle here, and you can see we have already these nice reflections that looks a little better than before, okay? And then if you want to add more reflections like that, okay, like it's a little damaged, and you can change even the color itself if you want to have something that looks like this in the end and not totally black here, okay? So like this, we have this kind of reflections that are already more interesting for what we wanted to. So we'll come back with this yellow painted shader here. We could come back to the coat just a little, And now we have already a paint that looks a little better than before. Good. So maybe we can play a little with the sheen here, and we will put the weight of it with to have a different color into our shader. So what we would like maybe is play with reddish values, increase the weight of it, and you see that in the side you have interesting colors that will appear. Maybe we can change the color itself, okay, to have just a gradient into that, not something too much, but just have a gradient, and it can really change the ambient of what you want to add. Okay, maybe I just want a gradient with something that is not that far in the wheel, like something like this. Okay, and we have a nice paint already. Good, so this will be the paint here, and I would like to add the rust, and the rust will be here. So basically the rust, I may Control Shift click to see what's happening here. I will make something that is dark with a dark color here. Okay, let's say something like that. So this could be the basic color, but I will make something a little more interesting with more complexity inside it, not only a flat first color. So what I would like to add here is again a texture, and this texture will be a noise texture. Okay, and we will add a color ramp as well. Maybe we will want to contrast this. So the color ramp is under the converter here, but you can search the nodes that you need if you remember the names. So I will plug this into that, and I would like to create new colors. So what I will do here, you can see that I have the result of the colors that I have here, and just with different colors here. So let's say you can copy just by take this information, don't click, just make Control C and you go there and now you have Control V, and you will make the same color for this one, okay, but slightly different, maybe darker, okay, to have something like that. And you can add another one here, and maybe this one might be lighter and more into the yellow, okay, and you will can create more interesting stuff with your texture like that. Okay, you see that now we have already something that is more useful than before, maybe a little less here and more like this. Okay, and now you will have this kind of behavior. So it can be very interesting to manage your colors for what you want. I will increase the details at 15 to have really something with more depth. Increase the scale as well to have something like that. Maybe less contrast in all of this, so something that will look more realistic. Okay. And yeah, again, don't change too much the colors. It's just something that have to look in a way like this. So here you can change the noise. For example, here it's a noise texture, but you could plug this in with something different, like another texture. Let's take a wave texture, for example. So here we have a wave texture. You can play with different settings here. You have the scene, you have the scale, you have the distortion. The distortion will look somewhere like this, so can be interesting as well. You have the details and you will have this kind of behavior. So yeah, it can really add other complexities here, like for example, now we'll have this kind of behavior. Okay, so you can plug whatever texture you want here. Here a noise texture will make the work, but it was just to showing you it was possible to make this. So here we can plug this, and now we have this. We would like to play with the normals as well, and we don't have any normal map. And for that, we don't use a normal map, we use a bump. So what we will do, we will make a bump like this, okay? Plug these informations from the noise texture into the bump, into the 8, and just plug this into the normals, and now you will have this kind of behavior like that, okay? That works well, but by default the distance is far too big, so maybe 0.1 might be enough, or even the strength of it, sorry, not the distance. So maybe 0.1, 0.3, let's say, to have something like this. Decrease a little the size again with the scale to have something more like that. And now you have something that looks more, starts to look more like what we want, okay? We can really increase the roughness for this one because we don't want any roughness, or you can again plug these informations into the roughness with a color ramp to not have too much of this. So let's go into the color ramp again, and we want something that is raw. So here that is raw. So here we don't want that much black information. So we will put them like almost white, light gray like this. And now we should have something that looks like that. And you can play with all of the settings to have more and more complex stuff there, okay? So something that we would like to create here now is the mixing texture. So we have basically two textures here, but we want a third one. And this third one, you can even mix textures to make it good. So for example, let's add a new noise texture again. Good. And this time we'll not use only one, we'll increase the details. I got 15, and we will duplicate this. The first one will look like this. We will add here really a mix color. And we will put this one with the scale at maybe 10, and another with the scale at, we will keep 5 maybe. And we would like to mix them together, not with this mixing factor by default, but with the multiply, and add the dark values here, okay? So like this, we will have something that will not look repetitive like we had before. And what we could play with, we will add again a converter color ramp, and we will contrast this to tell the part that will be in white will be the parts with the rust, okay, like this. If we had only the first one, it would be like this. So not that interesting. If we had only the second one, it would be like that. Not that interesting as well. So yeah, you can see that here it will not be repetitive even if we increase the scale values here. So yeah, it's a good one to have this kind of nice nice mixing stuff like that. So really you have in that case to increase this, yeah, until you find the right value. I think here it's not bad to mix the two materials. And now I will add a shader, mix shader. I will mix this one to that one, okay? And I can plug this color here. So now I will have basically something like that. I want the invert, so I can invert that just by making this, okay? Or I can invert that with a node that is made for that. And it's the invert value. Invert color here, okay? And you can see that it works pretty well. So now I have the rust and I have the paint. What I can do as well is use the bump here to make the holes look a little more realistic and more prominent. So for that, I will use these informations here and plug this as a displacement value. So here in that case, I will add a displacement node like this. And then we can plug this color just to see how it will work into the height. So let's go for that, and we can plug the displacement here. So what it will do, it will just increase a lot some vertices and move a lot some vertices, but what we don't want is to move really the surface, but create just kind of almost like a normal map. So we'll go back into the material settings here. We don't want the displacement and bump, we just want the bump only. Like this, it will just on a flat surface. So for example, if I take just this surface here, just on a flat surface, it will create that, okay? So me, I want maybe the scale to be a little less, because here it's too much. So 0.01 might be enough, just something like that. And you see, you have really this kind of nice mixing here that will really help to create something more natural in the end. So now you have really this bump that comes out. And now you can increase that in case you want. Maybe 0.05 might be good. And look, you have this nice effect on the edge that shows that the damage into the paint, that it's really under the paint and not above the paint. So it's interesting to play with that. If, for example, if it will not look realistic, but if, for example, if we would like to put the rust outside and above, so we could play with another invert, color invert, and now it will be outside. In some cases, it could be good. Like for example, in if we go here and replace the base color by just a metallic color, something around there, or old metal, okay, increase the metallic option, you will have this. And this, in that case, the rust that goes out might be good, okay? But in the way that we did use it, we can just remove the factor of the invert, and now we have really something that looks really nice. So it's just an example on how to make procedural shaders. You see that you have some stuff that are going on. So basically what we have first, we have the noise texture that creates a color ramp to create the color of the rust, a color ramp to create the roughness of the ramp, and a bump to create the bump of the rust. And then after we have the shader like this of the rust. Now we have the noise texture that creates the roughness of the color, the roughness of the paint here, and we have the paint itself like this. And then after we have two noise textures that are multiplied with each other to avoid here the when you have really this this repeat effect when you go with only one texture. So with two textures with different scales, it will work perfectly. And now we have a color ramp to contrast this, the invert color to make the color as we want, to mix the shader like that. And we have the two shaders here, and the same informations goes through the displacement here to create the bump and receive the rust under the paint. So that's how it works for this shader here. But we have a lot of other possibilities as well with procedural material, procedural shaders. I could go deeper in this, but it will take an entire course for that. So there are a lot of stuffs on internet going on if you want to go deeper into this. Another way, you see that in textures, we did use only two kind of textures. We did use the noise textures and a wave texture, just to show you how it works. But you have, for example, the Voronoi texture that is very good to create, for example, this kind of pattern here. So if you go into 12, you will have this kind of pattern that appear, and it will be very good for hammered material, hammered shaders. For example, if I just want to create a hammered copper, for example. So let's go into a new shader, and this one will be a principled. So this will be our metallic shader. We don't want now in the end of it the displacement, so I will just unplug this with a control right click here. And here I would like to play with the shader to create a kind of copper material. Okay, so I increase the metal, choose the right color, maybe it's a little too like this, okay. Choose the roughness as we want. And now I would like to use this Voronoi texture to create some bump. So let's go for that. I will go and find a converter color ramp as usual. Always useful when you play with these textures. And outside of it, it means you can increase or decrease the informations of black and white, or even change the color if needed. And now I can just go with a vector bump. So the height will be the end of the color here, and the normal will go there. So by default, what we will have is something like that. It's already not bad, a little too strong in my opinion. So let's go with the strength at 0.1, and look at this. You have a hammered material, very easy to manage, okay? So you have a hammered shader. So all these textures can be very useful to show different ways of mixing stuff, or add some normal information, some roughness information, metallic informations, that to mix this. So yeah, it's very important to understand a little how works these textures. Another example here would be maybe with the textures here. So we have the white noise to add some noise. We have the wave texture, I did show you that. The sky texture is not for this. The point density as well is not really interesting. You can add an image texture, but you can just click and drag as we did see like before. You have the magic texture here that creates stuff like this, or a factor like that. So sometimes can be interesting. You can play with the depths to have different possibilities, or the distortion too, to have this kind of crazy patterns. So can be useful as well. You have the gradient texture to create just a gradient, and with Control T you can manage the rotation of not the rotation, sorry, it will not be that one, it will be that one. For example, if you want to change the rotation of this texture, you will have to manage it with Control T and there's two mapping nodes here. So for example, it can be very good to add some stuff as well. You have here another texture that can be useful, gay bar texture, and you see the result here. So again, you can play with the scale, the frequency here. So it's kind of wavy material, very interesting. You can play with the anisotropic and the values of the orientation. So yeah, all of this, it's really useful to mix stuff in Blender. And you have the brick texture that can be useful. It says what it is, the brick texture. You have this, and you have different colors. This one is a little more complex, but you have different colors. Like for example, you could add this kind of color, brick color here, a second brick color, but a little different, maybe somewhere around here. And you have the mortar that you can play to have something that will work well. And you have the factor that goes out from it. You can play with this to add some bump into your shader, for example. So yeah, it was just little ways to show you how works. There's different settings here. Already you know how to make some copper with a hammered copper, and here a nice shader with the displacement into it to have the rust under the paint. And that's it for this video. I hope you did enjoy how to create shaders and materials in Blender. In the next chapter, we will see how to manage UV mapping, so how to unwrap models, how to unwrap 3D models in a 2D space that will help us to catch the informations of the pixels of the textures that are behind. So we will see that in the next chapter. It's very important to know that. And then after, we will finally can paint into our objects.